Everyone, welcome back to another weekly astrology forecast video at Haunted Cerebral Astrology. I hope everyone's doing well. This week is kind of like there's some big things about this week, but there's also not a lot else going on. I'm going to break it down, of course, as usual. So yeah, stick around. I will try and do this as quickly as possible. Yeah, thanks everyone for your support and all the comments in the last videos. It's really cool to keep up with what everyone's doing. So if you'd like to continue to do that, please do leave a comment down below. Also, if you want to support this channel, you can hit the like button, subscribe, share this video with someone you think will help them. Yeah, and if you want to book a consultation, information's down below. So let's get into it this week. You can see the astrology. Yeah, I just want to also kind of say some things about this week that are kind of interesting and into next week too. As you know, now that Mercury is also morning star, heliacal rising, and in domicile, it's really good for mercurial things. So anything like exchange-based, communication-based. I think this week too, there's going to be chances to do communications, whether or not, you know, for good or for worse. And I think with Mercury being in this like really powerful position, there's going to be a good chance for that. Another thing I'm going to be releasing soon for clients, I made like a horoscope legend. So it's just to give very basic understandings of the different dynamics in the chart. So if you are a client with me, expect that soon. And if you want to get one, then let's work that out. So otherwise, yeah, let's get into what's going on this week. And all right. So, I mean, like I said, for most of beginning of the week, not much is going on. Hold on. This looks wrong. There we go. So yeah, not much going on. Basically today, just that the moon goes into Pisces. But otherwise, really the big things this week are the Mars-Saturn opposition, and then the Mars-Uranus square. And yeah, I mean, once the moon goes into Aries, that's when things really start to pop off. So, which will be happening on the 1st. And then, of course, the moon will then go into Taurus and just kind of exacerbate things. But I think it's pretty interesting, actually, this whole thing. I mean, for some of us, it can be really exciting. And for others, it could also be pretty detrimental. But overall, I think it's going to be, there's going to be a lot learned in the next week or two, the next weeks to come. There's going to be a lot of learning being done in relationships and what we're doing and where we're going and what we're thinking and communicating and everything. And for the next, for the next lunar cycles, Jupiter's still in Pisces. So there is still this good energy there, regardless of whether or not Jupiter is retrograde. Okay, so let's get into it. I think I've already brought the clock back to where I want to start. Yeah, Monday. Okay, so basically, through most of the day, the moon's kind of void here. So that means it's not making any more aspects before it goes into Pisces. And then kind of in the early afternoon, which is like kind of explaining why some things are kind of hardly going on or having a difficult time for them to go forward. I mean, for me as well, just off my routine, off my schedule. Also, my neighbor, if you're going to hear that's why I'm using the headphones this week, is because if you're going to hear some construction going on, I guess my neighbor decided to rebuild their bathroom. So just to be aware of that. Anyway, so yeah, the moon just is going through Aquarius. Not much is going on. I mean, in general, I think probably some of us are really just feeling like, what are the necessities right now with Saturn after the moon made that conjunction to Saturn through the weekend. It's like, where are we now? What needs to be rethought about? What needs to be recontemplated? before, anything more severe happens, what things are impermanent or temporary now, before things can move forward. Because it's like almost on some level, I think, at least for me, I know there's some things coming up and I don't know how they're going to go. And, I think with that moon through Aquarius over the weekend, it just kind of brought that more into, it started to internalize that more. Anyway, so the moon goes into Pisces. There's this mood change. There's maybe a dreaminess reflecting on this part of our lives, So I think this is a good chance to get more in touch with this Pisces area of life, wherever you have that in your chart. What are you feeling about that? So yeah, and I think with the moon, then basically the whole day on Monday is just the moon going through Aquarius, contemplating what I was talking about, this kind of like, there's things on the horizon coming, things that we don't know if we're ready for, don't know how to deal with, or we don't know what decisions we're supposed to make. And so there's this like contemplating nature of that. And then once the moon moves into Pisces later in the evening, I mean, wherever you are, it could be in the early day if you're in the Pacific coast, it could be tomorrow if you're in Australia or wherever. So but then the moon moves into Pisces, and I think there's a good chance to check in with what this like Pisces story has been so far for some of us. The moon's going to get into that conjunction with Jupiter shortly after. So there is something to understand in terms of what Jupiter and Pisces has been about for us. What has been opening, new things that have been opening up in our lives. Where has there been more support, faith, wisdom, trust? Where has there been this like redemptive quality to certain parts of our lives where we're really like starting to really know and understand and learn and become more conscious of some of the more, potentials of things, but also like where things are not adding up, or where things could use more support, and where things could be grown more, and where we could connect more to things in more of a faithful and even a spiritual way. And wherever you have Pisces in your chart, there's probably been in the last weeks this kind of reconnecting to that and feeling a sense of hope and optimism that comes from that part of life. So, who is bringing faith into your life right now? Where's their order? And then where is there also chaos? What actions can we know are going to work based on faith in those things? I mean, the moon is also now waning after that Capricorn full moon. So there is this kind of like lowness to things. I think this decreasing nature from last week. I think whenever the moon goes through Pisces, especially while Neptune is still there is just a sense of things being a bit more foggy, a bit more elusive, a bit more dreamy, delusion. Somehow like we can kind of distance ourselves from things and kind of wash things away. So there is this kind of lowness to things in general whenever the moon goes through Pisces. But with Jupiter there too, it's like there's a faith to that. There's like knowing on some level, even though things are not perfect, that on some level they'll be okay. So there's this like sense of coming to terms, like I said, with what Jupiter and Pisces has been all about for you in that Pisces area of life. Because also I think this is a good time to check in with that, because the next time the moon comes back into Jupiter, Pisces, Jupiter is getting ready to leave. It's not quite there yet, but basically that will be the last time. This is the second last time that the moon will do that conjunction to Jupiter, to join with it, to become really close and intimate with it, and to feel it, to internalize what that whole Jupiter and Pisces thing has been all about. So this is a good chance to check in with the good, the prosperity, the hope, right? So let's finish Monday and go into Tuesday. Basically, the moon's just going through Pisces, makes that trine to the sun. I think this is nice. It's good to connect with where we're going, where the direction is. Going to have some positive alignment with where we're at right now and where we're going. I think this is where we can kind of feel where actions and efforts really are on the same page. Feels good, seems good, tastes good, looks good. So feel good, don't go good with that. I think Tuesday could be like a nice day. I think I don't really know. There's not much to say about Tuesday except for that, like the moon is translating whatever kind of feelings of hope and optimism we got from the night before with this conjunction to Jupiter, connecting it to Sun. So where are we intimately in relationships? Where are we heading in directions that are more close to home, close to us, and a more sensitive level where we're being taken care of, where we're taking care of ourselves, where we're getting back in touch with what it means to take care of things in these intimate parts of our lives. So with the moon just like connecting to that, I think that that forms this positive alignment. And then basically the moon nothing really much else happens except for that sextile to Uranus at the end of the end of the day. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is really just getting a sense of what's to come later in the week. I mean, you know, if you were to take the moon out of this equation, all you're going to see is, you know, this Saturn, Uranus, Mars thing coming up. So that's all that's really going on this week. But the moon, I think, connecting to Uranus is giving us a sense of what's to come, what can be adjusted now before things get out of hand. Maybe feeling that sense of impatience on some level, maybe like where we are, where we're feeling, where we're internalizing things in our dreams and our visions, our you know, this faith that we want to have that things are going to be okay. Maybe there's something that interrupts from a stable place, something that we didn't want to be broken, or that that somehow is nurturing things or giving us some sort of pleasure or comfort on some level that kind of flipped or has some extreme in a different direction. And, you know, now we can kind of maybe make some modifications to where we are being a bit more dreamy and not seeing things clearly, and to where things may be kind of coming to interrupt our stable positions at this time. So, you know, to me, I see that as like a foreshadowing to what's going on later. So we can actually just move out of Tuesday because otherwise nothing else really happens. So let's go into Wednesday. So what goes on? Yeah. So first things first, you know, moon makes that square to Mercury. Probably not a good time to communicate anything, I would say, at this time, with the moon being, you know, approaching that bodily union with Neptune. There's just a sense that like things are not really all that they seem. Or just like kind of starting to walk into that fog before, and not really knowing where our footsteps are going to be. And if we're trying to like communicate something important from that position, it could be misinterpreted, it could be misunderstood. So, you know, and the Mercury is also still in shadow, although it's in like a powerful position in terms of mercurial things. Like if you have 18 degrees in any of the double-bodied or mutable signs in your chart, this is like a really powerful time where Mercury is going to be, you know, forcing things or changing the directions of things and giving like a new dynamic to those things in the terms of like exchanges, communications, trades, travel, and things like that. Maybe we're making travel plans, or maybe we're having maybe we have to make some sort of travel plans at this time, and we're like connecting to that. We want to make a decision on some sort of exchange or some sort of deal. And with moon making that square to Mercury, it's like maybe we have to get other people involved before we can make a decision about that. And yeah, it may not be fully understood what people's position in that is yet. So there is this kind of like moon moving into the conjunction with Neptune. There's this translation of what that conversation's about, but from a place where it's like trying to communicate using a foghorn or something like that. It's like, maybe it's all in Morse code, but maybe the other person is trying to figure that out from their notebook rather than knowing it or feeling it or having some intuition about it. So it could get complicated. There could be miscommunications. There's definitely some sort of like message maybe that comes out that maybe lacks some sort of context or clarity. Moon is also still, like I said, decreasing in light. So there's this slowing down happening. Energy is low in general, I think, also just with the conjunction to Neptune. In my opinion, Wednesday is a bit of a strange day. It's not really straightforward what to do or where it's going. Like, where are things going? I mean, after that trine to the sun, it's like now it's like, okay, we're just kind of going on autopilot, but not really sure where it's going. So I'm not really sure what else to say about that. Basically, it's just like the Mars, Saturn, Uranus situation dominates the vibe. Yeah, and then the moon makes that conjunction to Neptune. Feeling just kind of like, where are we going? Maybe a bit lost, a little bit like wanting to escape, wanting to connect to, maybe wanting to watch films and just binge on films or something, but not really having the time to do that, wanting to do some art, wanting to do something more creative, but there's just no time. There's no possibility to do these things, to do something that we want to escape from or use as an escape. Because maybe there's just too much going on. There's responsibilities, there's pressure to do something, there's necessities as well. It's like, I'll get into that later, but yeah, anyway. So because with the Mars, Saturn, Uranus dynamic, and that's what that's all about. So I'll get into that once I break those down come tomorrow, Thursday. But yeah, before the moon leaves Pisces, of course, it makes that sextile to Pluto. You know, I'm kind of just like thinking back on a lot of these Pluto transits recently, especially with the Venus and Mars oppositions to Pluto. I don't know if anyone has been following some of the news from Canada at all, but you know, there's all these bodies being found under residential schools in Canada, and to me, that feels very like Pluto, like resurfacing of something really dark. You know, it's in Capricorn, so it's something really dark from the past. And with Saturn also retrograde now, it's like going back to the past and resurfacing these dark things. And with, I think with, I watched this really interesting, a nice interview with one of the people who's leading the, leading the project to bring these bodies back up, and about how actually that's really a healing process. And I think like with Venus making that opposition last to Pluto, to me, that speaks a lot about healing. And now with Venus coming up to where Mars is, it's like, okay, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration, but there is healing that comes with the actions that we take to resurface these things, to deal with these hard truths about the past, about where we come from and what has been done in the past and the consequences of that, the karma of that, right? And I think with the moon making that sextile, there is this chance to maybe free ourselves from some of that, to make some adjustments, to connect with other people, to harmonize within ourselves, with others, with what's happened, to let go, to free ourselves of those kinds of difficult topics that we don't necessarily know how to deal with, you know, going through one of the stages of grief, for instance. So it could be a good time to deal with some of these darker themes and difficult topics before tomorrow happens. You know, if you have the chance that evening to integrate or to to deal with those, to sublimate them on some level, this could be a good chance for that. The moon has just, you know, made that conjunction with Neptune, so there is this like translation of dissolving things, of letting go of things, of calming down things, of accepting the unacceptable. So it might be good to do something that requires, on some level, your full attention, something like of a spiritual nature on some level, that allows you to free yourself from something that's more dark or difficult in your life as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be about these topics from the news or anything like that. But if it does, this could be an opportunity to connect with others, connect with yourself, connect with something that has a unconditional love to it, and that addresses these darker topics for you on a personal level. Okay, so that's basically it I have for Wednesday. So let's just go into Thursday, where, you know, this is where really the week kind of starts, actually. So the moon then moves into Aries, middle of the night here, but early morning. Basically, wherever you are, it's going to set the tone moving forward. You know, this is kind of part of the reason why I think that even though this is a tough I wanted to point out that, like, you know, now, even though I think this is going to be tough transits moving forward, I think with the moon being in Mars's sign, to me, that says something about, like, you know, where we're at right now is also where it's like where we kind of are feeling, and we can actually touch base with ourselves at where there's this frustrating or hostile or conflicting qualities, and where we want to do things and where we want to go, but then where we're at realistically. I think you know, the moon is in Mars's sign, so it's also decreasing, so it kind of knows what it's like. We know what we're in for at this point. That's what I mean. There's no illusions about that. You know, on one hand, it could be that this maybe is the spark that sets the fire to, you know, maybe there's going to be forest fires going on now. There's going to be increases in intensity of heat, or maybe in a social relationship, there could be just more hardship that comes on, more intensity, more potential for conflict to turn into something unmanageable. But on the other hand, it could also be that this is just, like I said, this is a chance to get real with what this situation's about, to start to internalize these things that are more Martian themes of drive, effort, pushing, agitation, self-will on some level, like becoming more connected to where those things have been playing out in our daily lives. And with things coming up, and knowing that maybe even though we want to push on some things, we want to make an effort for some things, it's like at the same time we may be powerless with that. You know, for some of this, it could be like a big encouraging transit. For others, this may just be, like I said, the spark that turns the car off the road. Maybe the tire that pops that you really didn't need to pop right now. I think it's good to remember that although today is a big day, it's also the start of something coming on. You know, this is the first of the planet. Like Mars is kind of leading the way in terms of the planets that are going to be activating this Saturn Uranus square. So this is kind of really the beginning of what's to come next. Once we get like Venus coming through, kind of cleaning up things, the sun coming through, kind of purging things and getting us to understand them, become more clear about them. And then with Mercury moving through and starting to take what we've learned from all these things and to do something with it, to apply it to practical skills, like to actually make use of it. So yeah, I think this is like a really fiery transit for the moon. It's going to be pretty relentless. Like I was kind of looking at how the moon going through Aries and then Taurus, like these next days, there's just like, it's just kind of bang, like the moon's just like making transits back and forth. It's just translating. There's like a whole conversations happening here. This could be just like when, you know, that thing you really were, you know, everybody was waiting for something detrimental to happen. And now like those coins are starting to fall out. Maybe, you know, the call is made that something has happened that we've been waiting for. And now it's just about like keeping the conversation going, making the decisions that need to be made back and forth between the two parties on each end. Anyway, so the moon goes forward, then first makes that trine to Venus. So there might be a way of reflecting of what's going on, not just with ourselves, but with others, to know that like whatever's happening is not just happening to us alone. There's others really experiencing this situation as well. It's not just about us. It's also there's other people involved. So this could be a good way to find to connect with other people who are going through this situation with us, and maybe even taking some action to get in touch with others who may be able to help us to feel the feelings that we need to have, to go through the motions that we need to go through, to aid us in having some comfort through these difficult times. If some of us are experiencing a lot of suffering and pain right now, maybe this is a chance for us to communicate that, and that there could be some relief that comes from that, some sort of physical relief even. So So yeah, and then we get that exact, the exact, basically right away, right after that, we get that exact opposition of Saturn, or Mars to Saturn, right? So later, Mars is going to make the square to Uranus. It's not quite yet, but we're already feeling that. So this opposition and the square, these are really like the main events of the week. I think for some, this could be a really challenging week, like I said before, while for others, this is kind of like pushing the story forward. Whatever the story has been so far, this is going to start to push it forward. Mars is like reactivating in general what the Saturn-Uranus square has been about for us through the year. So think about when the last ones were happening. Think about the first one that happening. What was going on in those times? And this is now like exacerbating that situation. So Mars, like I said, is leading the way, activating things from Leo. All the other planets have to go through Leo too. So Venus, Sun, Mercury, and then the moon's been activating it all the time. Every single transit through the fixed signs, it's the solid or fixed signs. I think this is also an interesting dynamic because the activations are actually happening from Leo too. So while in Cancer and Leo, like Cancer, if you can think about last summer, Saturn was in Capricorn. So there was this different vibe, a different necessity, a different sense of impermanence. Last year, the cardinal and the tropical signs were being hit. While now it's like the fixed and solid signs. So there's something about what we need to be stable, what we expect it to be stable and secure and not really to move too much. Now those things are moving. They're not working the same ways that we're used to them working. Maybe it's just even like now with the sun in Cancer in the summer solstice, and it's going towards the steadier light. It may be that things are a bit more intense or extremes happen during this summer that typically we're not expecting of that. Some of the things I've been reading about just in terms of like global warming and the heat of the world right now, it's like all these truths about where we're at in terms of the earth heating up. There's just more and more information coming out about that stuff. There's more and more realities about those things and information and facts coming out about those things that are like revealing some of the truth and some of the like making a more clear picture about what that is. And maybe with Mars making that opposition to Saturn and to Uranus, it's like this could be something that activates or that cooks up or that boils up or explodes, even something that's related to these things that we've expected to just kind of stay the same and to never change. And now they're changing, and there's nothing we can really do about that except for, what we can and where we're at in this moment in time. So, we've already seen the activation of Saturn, Uranus from Aquarius and Taurus, but now that's coming from Leo. So this can be tricky. The fixed, especially for anyone who's got these fixed sign placements. If you have any, big fixed sign placements, especially from the 7 traditional planets, this could be really activating things for you. There's a new angle to this activation too, one that's more from solar themes. So the direction of our life, the directions of where the story's going so far, our health, clarity, ambitions, the ideals that we're heading towards, some of the authorities that we're dealing with in our lives, the will that we have to do things, to pursue things, with what's our intentions with things. And these may be getting activated, these may be getting triggered, these may be getting pushed into corners or pushed in directions that we don't necessarily feel comfortable with, that we don't necessarily want to do, but maybe we have to do. Saturn is still in domicile. So in some levels, this is not, I don't think this is really bad. I mean, Saturn is in Aquarius. Maybe there's hard things happening. Maybe there's sad things happening. Maybe there's things that we're losing in our lives. But somehow these are helping us to become more mature, become more true to ourselves, becoming more true to others as well. Living in authenticity on some level, with this whole Leo thing, it's like, it's all about that authenticity. And this is like a situation where being our authentic selves is so much about how we're going to get through these next weeks or whatever's going on right now, with as much integrity as possible. You know, so, you know, Saturn, like I said, it's in domicile, it's in Aquarius. So on some level, there is something good about this, even if it doesn't feel good in this moment. There's something about the position we're taking here. I think this is especially bringing out the inside or outsider paradigm. You know, for instance, for me, like, I'm going there. There's a lot of exciting things happening for me, but there's a lot of sad things happening for me too. Going through loss in the family right now, and loss back home. It's uncertain, like if there's going to be enough resources or access to resources or access to being able to do things, to be there for others right now because of some of the loss going on, and because of the restrictions in travel, restrictions in where I'm at with trying to get my visa renewed and things like that. You know, it's so, you know, it's about like me being over here, but having to be present for people on the other side of the earth. So where's that insider outsider paradigm going on? And, you know, where do we fit into that picture? Where do you fit into the bigger picture of things for you and where you're at? Do we even know where we are in that picture? And I think this is a chance to, if you're not really trying to connect with that, this might be like the slap in the face that reminds you where you are in that picture. Perhaps we found a new light to shine, seeing things maybe a bit more clearly from somewhere with this whole Leo fire, with the sun sign energy, you know. But then how do we get that to work? Is it going anywhere? Where is it going? Is there something forcing things forward versus things making it slow down? You know, on one level, maybe there's a lot of like exciting things, a lot of pursuits, a lot of fulfilling some of those more ego boosting and energizing qualities in our lives that are shining really great light onto exciting parts of our lives. But then at the same time, there's something like requiring us to slow down and to get back to something that's pretty real. You know, it's not just like dreams and fantasies all the time, especially I think once the moon leaves Pisces and it is in Aries, it's like, we know that life is just not like this dream and fantasy place. It's like, it's many different qualities. And I think this is where these polar opposites are at work here, you know, fast versus slow, actions versus contemplation, combusting versus freezing, like things that are just like coming out of the oven, but then things are coming out of the freezer at the same time. So I think that we're seeing these two forces kind of vying for dominance between Mars and Saturn, but which is in the better position to succeed. So let's weigh out the conditions here. Moon, Mercury, Venus, you know, are all kind of backing up. Whoops. They're all kind of backing up. The annotator for this thing is always getting in the way of the screen. Anyway, so, you know, Moon is supporting Mars now, you know, where we're at, where we're feeling, what we want to do, the things that are happening to us and manifesting in our lives right now that are real. Those are part of like what actions and willpower we're trying to like push the story forward, make things work, putting our efforts forward. That's where we're at right now. But like far away somewhere, there's something really real happening. And then, you know, with Venus kind of following up right behind Mars, it's like, even though we kind of just have to do things and do the cleanup afterwards, there's going to be space for that. There's going to be support for that behind us. So it's like, okay, it's going to be okay. There's something about like knowing that it's going to be okay. We just have to do the next thing. And I think with the sun being in Moon sign, it further emphasizes that. And I think with Mercury also sextiling with from sign, you know, it's like everything's just saying go, go, go on this one level. You know, all those kinds of the square, everything's in these overcoming positions. So they're like testifying from this place of like, this needs to happen and this needs to happen and this needs to happen, you know, and that's giving Mars a lot of momentum forward, right? And so on one level, there is this like push forward, which is good. because things are happening, things are moving. But Mars is also not necessarily dignified in Leo. I mean, it's not poorly dignified, but it doesn't have the same kinds of resources that Saturn's going to have in Aquarius. Also, you know, Sun is in aversion to Leo here, being in Cancer. But I mean, one way I could see, you know, through liking girding, which is basically like we can look at the planet that rules over that planet. So Moon, and Moon's able to connect to Mars. So on some level, yes, our direction of things, where we're at, where we're seeing things, where we're clear, where the story is happening, even though it's a bit off, it wants to be more sensitive, a bit more intimate, a bit more comfortable, a bit more maybe focusing on relationship or focusing on getting some of our needs met. It's still able to know that there's something that needs to be done to move forward. And, you know, our Uranus is in the mix too. Uranus is, you know, it's like making that big square there. So, you know, it's a wild card, but it's in the superior position to Mars. Mars is, you know, hurling rays back at it. It's like, okay, you know, give me a break here, give me a break here, but it's eventually going to have to break. So there's this forceful push to make Mars go erratically forward. There's no compromise to things now. It's go or nothing, really. Whatever situation Mars is trying to initiate, trying to push forward in the mission it's on. Uranus has this quickening effect too. So it may be that like as things go forward, things are just quickening up as well. It's like this is what I'm talking about. It's like a simultaneous thing of like things slowing down, but things quickening up at the same time. So don't be surprised if something from left field just changes things. Mars and Uranus is kind of like, I heard this in the astrology podcast, but they call it like dangerous friends. So I could see that too. It's like maybe there's somebody who comes in who has that kind of like dark quality and like pushes things into a direction, you know, you stay up all night and you didn't really want to, kind of thing. And it's like you really didn't want to, and it really was not a good idea to stay up all night, but you did it anyways because maybe this person just needs that support right now, and they need what you are able to give, and so you just have to give it. Anyway, you know, just check your boundaries if you can, but it may be that there's too many things needing us right now and wanting things from us right now, and like we're trying to meet those things. And we have to like let go of the things that we can't meet, you know, with the moon decreasing in light. It's like, as it gets closer to the first quarter moon, we're just going to have to let go of things. But anyway, so, I mean, like Saturn's in its domicile, but it's also retrograde. That said, it has an extreme gravity to it to stop things, to go the opposite direction, to not go forward, to deal with what is right now. Jupiter is also on its way back to Aquarius. So that's where the weight really is in Aquarius, right? Where there was a reason that Jupiter is going back to Aquarius, to support something there, something that still needs a lot of support. So no matter how hard we try, we can't change that, you know, we can't change the inevitable of things. You know, we're mortal. We live in this world in a mortal existence. There's impermanence, which is what Saturn's reminding us of, that there's impermanence in this world. No matter what we do, no matter how much we focus on legacy, try to make everything okay, try to untie all the knots, wrap up all the pieces. At the end of it all, you know, death comes to everybody, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And no matter how much you prepare for that, you're not going to stop death from happening, right? You're not going to stop the people from doing construction downstairs. So, you know, Saturn's ability to do what it does is extremely strong right now. So Mars knows what it wants to do now. Uranus is pushing that, but Saturn's also saying like, whoa, hold on, like, no, on some levels. I think Saturn's just saying no. You know, things are still going to happen. It's like, but at some point you're going to have to slow down and deal with what that no is all about, regardless of how fast you're moving right now on some other tasks. So expect some urgency, but then the pressure to think on your feet. There could be rewards also for those who are willing to take the risks, to think on their feet, to just do what needs to be doing and accepting the consequences. Is like throwing the whole plan out starting from scratch, realizing that whatever plan you were on maybe is just not working now. And so you have to go back to basics, go back to the sandbox. Some things just need to break now in order to surrender, right? And maybe that's just where things are at. Maybe it's like, you just need to break this thing right now. So be conscious of that. And like I said in the last week, last time there was the same kind of dynamic was in the 60s. And although it didn't at the time when Mars did trigger things in the Uranus-Saturn opposition, it didn't really lead up to anything until that Cuban Missile Crisis later in October. So this really could be that kind of first tense building aspect where it's like, okay, now there's forces at work that are making things more detrimental to things, that are making things more challenging and opposing and crisis building, but the crisis may not be happening right now, right yet. It may be later down the road. So yeah, like I said, also last week, I think don't be surprised if we see some sort of military action right now. Okay, so then that's kind of it for me with that opposition. I'm going to probably talk a little bit more about the Mars-Uranus thing once the square hits, but then we get that the last quarter moon, crisis in consciousness. What do we need to let go of right now? I think there's a sense of powerlessness overall, like we're not enough right now for whatever tasks we're facing, but this is where we need to get real with ourselves, to consider where we are now actually. Sometimes we just need to lower the bar. We can't be everything. This can mean like taking care of ourselves, which is our most important task in the day. We have to make sure that we're taken care of first, right, before we can really help anyone else and be of service in fullness. We also have to make sure that we get enough sleep, we get enough food, we get enough water, we clean ourselves and all these things, like our spiritual practice. What makes us ensure that we're taken care of, so that when we come to somebody else and their challenges, we can be fully present, right? And unfortunately, at the moment, it's like, what is the most basics of that we can take care of, that allows us to know that there's not enough time, not enough energy in the day, not enough in general to do everything that we'd like to do. But maybe we just have to let go of some of those things at the time and focus on the basics and focus on where we are in reality. Because I've said this before, I think Eckhart Tolle says this, is just like true spirituality is really a healthier relationship with reality. Anyway, so that's Thursday. So let's go into Friday. Friday is more just like extending what was going on with the Mars opposition and square. Moon sextiles, first of all, makes that sextile to Saturn. So there's a chance maybe to adjust things, to do what's necessary. Even if we don't want to do what it is what we have to do, we can still do it at this time. It might be in the middle of the night for us. So for some of us, we may just have to be late. It's like a late night, it's just a late night where we have to do something. Moon makes that trine to Mars. Again, I think this just puts into greater focus that there's support to our efforts on some level. Even if it feels like nothing is going forward the way we want it to, there's a way to understand that. Taking a closer look at what it is we are trying to do and giving ourselves a break about it. Moon is quite fiery right now, so things could just change on a dime. Like, we don't have full control right now. This trine is about knowing and intuitively feeling where that turn happens on some level. It's the middle of the night here in Germany, but wherever you are, maybe you finally get like, okay, now I got to go to bed. But if you're somewhere else in the world, like even on the Pacific coast, this is going to be later in the evening for you. So, or in the afternoon. So this is just maybe where you're really understanding where that situation is and what you need to change on that dime, where the passion is, and where where there can be some support from making more assertive action and addressing some of our fears on the situation. I've been reading the book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And yeah, they talk all about how sharing fear with those that are dying is like one of the most effective ways of like opening up to the person who is dying that you're there for them and you're there with them, and it's okay for them to be exactly how they are, whatever impulsive nature that includes. Because when people are facing their death, they're not going to be completely their most serene selves, right? Like they're going to act out. They're going to maybe say things to you that are going to be hard to deal with. And when we share our fears with others that are in that position, they can trust that we are open to what is happening to them, and we're honest with them. And honesty is the best way for people to become more authentic, right? Anyway, then the moon makes that sextile later in the afternoon to Mercury. I think if you want to communicate something, now is a good time before the moon goes into Taurus, when I don't think it's going to be so much about like sending out messages or anything like that, or and then it gets back to really that necessity drive again, where things get shaken up with the moon getting into that conjunction with Uranus. So I think with this sextile to Mercury, there could be a chance to say something now. Maybe we're feeling kind of off the hinges a bit. It could be that this is a chance to have a conversation that feels a little bit more challenging than normal. That said, if something needs to be put out there, this is as constructive as it's going to get before moon moves into Taurus, I think. So yeah, and like I was saying before, like Mercury isn't moving so much this week, right? It's still in shadow, but it's in this heliacal rising position, so it's really strong, and it's in Gemini, so there's a lot of domicile energy for mercurial matters. So if you want to make that impulse investment, maybe you have a good intuition about something, this could be that time. Or you want to get the message out about work or something you're working on or something you're working towards, then this could also be a good time for that. Or wherever you have maybe something with family, between money and family, between your creativity and your partner, or wherever you're at with those Gemini matters in your life, and you want to communicate those maybe from a place where you have a deeper understanding, where you're this Aries part of your life, there's going to be that chance to make a very clear message about that. Okay, so let's just move forward. That's Friday, basically. Then the moon, yeah, so let's do Saturday. I don't know, moon makes that square to Pluto before it leaves Aries. Yeah. This could be a bit scary, but it's passing, so allow it to happen, I think. And then moon moves into Taurus. Kind of a mixed bag where this is coming on. It's like the mixed bag element to the recipe that we're cooking. On one level, I think this is maybe good for Venus, who's following and cleaning up behind Mars. Now there's good resources between where we're at, where we're feeling, where we're reflecting on things, where things are changing and fluctuating, and where there's support that is needed, where there's some mending to be done, some restylizing, diplomacy, renegotiating matters that have been shaken up by Mars having to move through that opposition, getting into the square with Uranus. So on one level, this could make things more unstable for the Mars-Saturn-Uranus situation, because moon is going to be activating the square from that position. But it's also maybe good for Venus trying to clean up after Mars, as Venus prepares also for the same transits that Mars is going through next week. So on one level, I think we have to remember too that the moon is also exalted in Taurus, so this could be like really big highs and lows, and it could exacerbate things from the Uranus side of things, making that side of things more elevated and having to be taken care of, and expecting more from that part of our lives, because there's this it's like having the this very important person in the home all of a sudden, and we have to take care of them and what their expectations of things are about. But maybe they're a person that like we just can't read, we can't whatever we think we can make ready for them, it's never going to be the right thing. With Uranus, it's like we just can't prepare for what they're going to want to do, or what they're going to want, what's going to make them feel comfortable, right? And so, it's like now there's some of us that are kind of pushing to this like kind of all-time high, I think, with the moon being exalted there and then squaring to Mars and Venus as well. While for others, this could just be not being able to keep up. There's too much going on. This is also about being pushed on some level to the edge and just doing what you need to do for you on some level. Maybe it's not what others want. There's definitely some kind of maverick vibes with Uranus in the mix, breaking the rules on some level, but that could be exactly what you need. Maybe shit just needs to break right now. Maybe in the moment it has these consequences that, are kind of scary or hard to deal with, but also some you don't know what's going to happen from. Sometimes these things that we do that maybe others don't want us to do right now in the future are part of what builds such a good confidence in ourselves and brings us to a new place in the future. We just don't know where the things we do now are going to lead us. It could just take time for that thing to firmly set in stone. So it could be that, you just have to do it right now. While for others, I think also this is a chance where we have to kind of check ourselves and watch, choose our battles. Not getting in there yet. Sometimes the best action is inaction. With Uranus, it's not easy to tell. In any case, I think it's really just extremes and opposites in general. So there's something expected to be stable, but now it's not. So what do you do? What do you do? And I think really it's like check in with yourself. Moon's in Taurus. What do you need? What's going to feel good for you? What's going to make you feel more comfortable? What's going to get you back onto a steadfast direction of things? What's simple that you can actually elevate, getting the pleasures from the simple things of life, so to speak. And so check in with that. Wherever Taurus is in your chart, that's going to be where you're going to be getting something from that. And so that you can stand up and step up for the next things to come. And then basically before Saturday ends, the last thing that happens really is that sextile to Jupiter. This is nice. I think that's good because it's happening before the square with Mars goes exact. So there's a good feeling, there's a good faith, there's a good belief that what you're doing is enough right now. And I think that's a nice thing to end Saturday with. Maybe it's a good chance to do something that helps you to escape a little bit from the reality of things. Not completely, it's not a trine. There's still some adjustments to be made in terms of where you're at, but it could be just a chance to get connected to something that frees you a bit from the harder things, the more heavy things that are going on. Right. Okay, so moving to Sunday, and then Mars makes that square to Uranus. It's also the 4th of July, so any of my American followers, happy 4th of July if you are patriotic on any level. And then, yeah, what's going to explode this year? That's a good question after all the calamities there. Let's see. I hope that you have fun. Enjoy the fireworks. That's all I can say. Moon is also going to be in the mix, right? So it's bringing reality and embodying to this whole experience. I wouldn't be surprised if we really feel this rushing, explosive, volatile push forward at this time. This is turning from the compromising and trying to do things with everyone else to just not compromising anymore. This is just like, this is kind of the fuck it energy. When you just stop caring about the consequences, shit is going to get disrupted, extreme, uncompromising. There's going to be probably some anger to some of the things that are happening. This is so much that's kind of out of control right now. Things are not feeling fair, but when did anyone ever say that life is about things being fair, right? I think I've had hard conversations this past weeks, where you have to come to terms with the fact that life is not about being happy necessarily. Life is not about being fair. Life is not about no problems ever, right? Like, sure, there's times when those things happen. And I think it's up to us, and it's a responsibility of us as individuals and as spirits, souls, to enjoy when life fully offers these gifts of happiness and serenity. That's a responsibility of ours, to enjoy life. Still, the happiness, I think, is kind of meaningless unless we're able to deal with the challenges that come too. That applying the grace that we can feel, we can hold on to that grace. We can act on faith when we come into situations where things just get more hardcore, right? And it's like, it's often said, it's like, we don't take these spiritual tools that we're sharpening, that we're working on, that we're building great things in our lives with, and we can't apply those to the parts of our lives where things are hard, then it's kind of meaningless, right? So, what's the expected thing to do here versus what's the thing you just want to do? What feels good versus what you should do? It's kind of a damned if you don't, damned if you do kind of situation. So I don't know. I feel like you just need to decide whether or not peace of mind is valuable to you or not. So go on that kind of motivation, and I'm sure everything's going to be okay. On some level, you just have to turn it over, right? Anyway, Moon's like squaring with everything in Taurus. I think that's, I'm not going to go into all the details of every single square that the moon makes this transit through Taurus, but really it's just highlighting what position we need to choose. What actions are we taking that we want to take, and where to do those things? What's the idea we are heading towards? Just before the moon conjoins with Uranus, it also sextiles with the sun too. So, it's just about, and then boom, it like makes that sextile just after the square to, it's like so much is happening here to us, or to the situation around us, to the circumstances. There's just so much happening that's out of our control. And when the moon makes that sextile to the sun, I think this is a good chance to check in with like where we're going, what's our story, what's our direction, connect with that, adjust to fit that, do what makes sense to you, what makes sense to the direction of your life to this point now, right? And then the moon makes that conjunction to Uranus. And really, this just kind of like ends the week, where things are just a bit crazy now. We feel probably a bit crazy now. This is like the free fall. The carpet is pulled from under our feet. We fall back into the unknown. The next 2 weeks are all about what is going to catch you from behind, right? What have you done up until this point that keeps you from a hard hit on the ground? This is like getting hit with the kaisaku stick or the awakening stick in Zen. Suddenly, you wake up to your true nature, realizing the answer to your question all along. But it's a free fall. There's nothing there on some level. When you come into awareness, true awareness of your true nature, you realize that it's not what you thought it was. And there's a lot of free fall to it. And that's why, they call it like a somethingness or a thingness, because it's indescribable. On some levels, we could experience it for the first time and it feels quite empty, quite void, and we fall. And that can be scary, but that's what the structures and routines and rituals were all for, right? To catch us when we fall. And I think that's what this translation of light is really telling us right now as we get into that conjunction with Uranus. And waking up means coming to realize that everything we thought we knew has changed, right? So that's it for this week. Okay. Next week looks like a lot more harmonizing, especially because everything's going to be from what's happening to Venus now, going through the same kind of gamut. And that can kind of revitalize our moods to things, getting back on our feet, letting the blood flow back to the feet after they're, letting the blood flow back into sleeping with limbs. I like that image. you know, when I'm sitting for a long period of time, some of the limbs go to sleep, right? And then when you move again, you do your stretches, or you get back up and you do your gasho and everything. There's blood moving back into limbs that you that has this that you let go of during zazen or whatever. And I think with Venus running the same gamut from last week and activating the Saturn Uranus tensions again, it's going to be from this Venus-like dynamic. So there's modifications. We're going to be more creative about it, finding balance, mending, and healing. I heard it called like the cleanup crew on some level. And there was a cooling down from the heating up of Venus topics too. So in relationships, aesthetics, values, recreation, actions based on desires, and things like that. So realizing that this is also, I think what this week and leading into next week is that we're realizing that actually this is a multi-year process. Uranus doesn't leave Taurus until 2025, 26. And right now we're just in the thick of things. This is where things are just kind of really tense. I mean, at some point, Saturn's going to leave Aquarius, right? Uranus will still be in Taurus, but I think in the next year or two, this is just kind of more of the tense parts of this transit that we're going to have to deal with. Okay, so that's it for this week's forecast. I hope that this was helpful and you got something out of this, and it's helped you to bring your spiritual umbrella for the week if necessary, what raincoat you need to wear or what rain slicks you need. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay out there. Like I said, I'm going to be releasing to clients this my horoscope legend. Like I basically made a legend kind of describing very basic points in the horoscope for when we do consultations to help you, especially for those who don't know a lot about astrology. And if you want to get one, you can book a consultation with me, or we can talk about it, you know, maybe make a trade. So hit me up, and please like, comment, subscribe. I like to hear how these transits go for you. Share this video with someone you think is going to help them. And I wish you guys all the best this week. If you want to book a consultation, links down below. Take care, everyone, and see you later. Bye.